Hello and welcome to the 7th edition of Half Hour, a podcast starring me, John Paulo Giudice, as your host. In today's episode, I will discuss sports with my friend Nathan Miller. Excellent to have you on the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So let's just kind of start off with, how's work, how's college, what have you been up to recently?
Yeah, so I just graduated college, Elon University down in North Carolina. Great school. I'd highly recommend it.
Always good to travel.
Exactly.
College, man.
North Carolina is such a nice state to live in because you got the nice countryside, you got the rolling hills down the Appalachians, and then you also have the beach if you want to go to the Outer Banks. It's a really nice place.
I drove through there on my way to South Carolina in August of 2017, and I was appalled at how big the properties were.
Oh, yeah.
The houses just go on forever.
They do.
Yeah, it was cool. We were actually going to see, my parents, right? They were like, oh, we want to take a beach trip to Florida. And I was like, if we go this month at this time in South Carolina, we can see a solar eclipse.
Oh,
we
shit,
can add
yeah.
everything in there. So they listened to me and we went. And, they heard me out rather. I'm not commanding them, I'm still their son. But it was awesome. It was a really unique experience, especially to do that with my family. It was cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so tell me more about your college and stuff.
Yeah, so I just graduated. I graduated with a finance degree from the Martha and Spencer Love School of Business. It's a great place. But actually, it turns out after that business degree, with the opportunities that I had set forth for myself, I am actually turning to be a high school math teacher come this September, which is an opportunity that I'm very happy that I was able to pursue with the situation that I was in, and I'm very excited to start that this upcoming school year.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool, man. I really give you props for that. Making it through college right now, especially with COVID and all these things, I myself took a gap year and then transferred elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So it's just about hard work and pushing through. But today we're talking about sports.
Yeah.
So hit me with, what is your favorite sport? What do you like to watch or play or analyze rather? Mm-hmm. Tell me more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So if I were going to pick a favorite sport out of all of them, including what I like to play recreationally, because look at me, I'm not pro athlete material. I'm not gonna.
Don't knock yourself down. You did pretty good at volleyball earlier.
Yeah. But no, if I'm talking about bringing everything together, watch, play, just overall intake, it's got to be basketball. Mm-hmm. College basketball, NBA basketball, it's all great.
Yeah. I know that there are a lot of different levels to it. I know you have high school sports, you have college sports, you have the kind of professional sports, things mm-hmm. like that. What would you say your best? I don't know how to put it. What do you feel you know the most about, or what are you passionate about the most?
Oh yeah, it's got to be professional basketball. I'm growing up living in Boston, huge Celtics fan.
Yeah, you gotta be. This is our region. You can't.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm wearing a Kings jersey right now. I don't know if the video is gonna be on here, but don't worry. The only reason I wear a Kings jersey is because they suck and they're never gonna be a competitor. But Celtics are my heart and soul, man.
Yeah,
they're the best.
We did pretty good recently, right? I don't follow much sports.
We made it. We made it to the NBA Finals. We lost against the Golden State Warriors, which props to them. They have Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. Not much you can do about that if he's hitting threes from half court and whatever the fuck he wants. He can. If the thing about Steph Curry is that I've never seen another basketball player in my life mm-hmm. is that it seems like if he wants a shot to go in, it's going to go in. Yeah. It doesn't matter where he shoots it from. If he feels this is going to go in, it's going to go in. And it's insane. I've never seen someone that has that control of their shots. Yeah, no one with that control of their shots I've ever seen play in the NBA at that level. It's crazy.
I used to play with my neighbor.
Yeah.
When I was younger, we used to just play in the driveway. He was 2 years younger than me. He just wiped the floor with me every day. Yeah. But it was good exercise. I never really, he played in school and mm-hmm. he was pretty good at it. But I don't know. For me, sports was always kind of just an interesting thing that people do, and I'll watch sometimes. Yeah. But it just wasn't really my cup of tea. But not to be insulting. It's mm-hmm. just wasn't something I was super interested in. But I know that. For example, right, a lot of these basketball players, they do have brands. Mm-hmm. Nothing is more famous than Michael Jordan's brand, though. Yeah. This man, he's got shoes He's got all sorts of different things.
Yeah, he sponsors the UNC basketball team down in North Carolina, something I'm very close with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, are you hoping to kind of go into this as a field, kind of like sports management or something? Or?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I went into college for finance, business degree. I went in thinking, oh, this is a super safe field. If I can get a degree in this, there are so many companies that can hire me. So I just wanted to cast a wide net and hopefully catch a few fish.
It is smart.
But my real passion is in sports broadcasting. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd love to be up there in the booth calling either basketball or football or baseball games, saying, oh, Larry Bird hit that three, or whatever you want to call it.
Like you'd be the voice person.
Yeah, exactly. I would really want to be the voice of whatever professional sports team. I want to say, oh, yeah, you watch the Celtics game? Yeah, I know Nate Miller calls that on the radio, or he calls that on ESPN. But, yeah, that's really my goal that I'm stretching towards in life.
That's cool, man. And all I could think about was how, when you said finance, it's good to have like a wide net to cast for a job, so that when you're working for a while, you build up this income so that it's safe to then play.
Yeah.
Play meaning like maybe literally in sports, but also play as in like you can find your groove. Like maybe you could leave this career for a few months and have some money to kind of live off of to move into something you really enjoy.
Oh yeah. Because I've been told by not only my parents but just the people that I've talked to. Like, I'm only 22.
Yeah.
I got so much of my life ahead of me.
Yeah.
I can take that secure field for the first 5-10 years, do whatever we want to do, and then after I save up, do what I need to do, and then that's when I can pursue what I really want to accomplish in life.
Yeah, and I think it is just super interesting to kind of like be so passionate. I know Andre and I were talking about this ad nauseum in the last podcast about how he was, he's super into performing, and how he's really trying to push himself in a new direction and work really hard. Like, you have to, I said this before. My grandmother always used to say, you have to eat, sleep, and breathe it. You have to just keep pushing yourself. And nobody's gonna do it for you. You have to just keep pushing. But all right, let's get into like the details. Like, tell me about like maybe the history of basketball in the sense of like. How like that history can be relevant today, or like, your thoughts on that. Yeah.
So, first off, I want to relate it to something that happened very recently, as of this filming, and that's Bill Russell's passing. Bill Russell, for those of you who aren't aware, is an all-time Boston Celtic legend. He won 11 championships with the team between the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. Okay. And he recently passed away a couple weeks ago.
What did he pass away from? Just old age?
Just old age. As at the time of this recording, they haven't really released the specifics.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He's passed away. I believe it was 88, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But not only was he a superb basketball player, he was one of the championing forces in the civil rights movement back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he was up there, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. He was really pushing for it, where they were talking about it in terms of like just life in general. Bill Russell was there in the sporting sector.
Okay. So he was African American.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who just didn't know about him.
Oh yeah, He's really a true great. He was the first African American coach of any pro sports team in the United States. Boston Celtics, still player and then moved to coach. It was outstanding, but he recently passed away. And actually last week, do you want to know what they did?
What's that?
They retired his number throughout the entire National Basketball Association.
What was his number?
Number 6.
So that means no one else can be number 6.
That means every single basketball player coming into the NBA can no longer choose number 6.
Are there any other numbers that are like off the table?
Not in the NBA, but there are 2 other in professional sports. In the MLB for baseball, there's Jackie Robinson's number 42, because for very similar reasons as Bill Russell, he broke the color barrier. Yeah. He was one of the first. He was those pioneers. And then number 99 in the NHL for hockey, for Wayne Gretzky, one of the most prolific scorers of all time in that sport.
Did I tell you I met Jágr Jaromír?
Really? No, you didn't.
I had a picture with him, yeah. I met him at my university. There was a press conference.
Yeah.
I knew somebody who worked there, and they got me in. And it was him along with, actually it was funny. It was the deputy ambassador from Canada to the Czech Republic. Yeah. There were a few other people there. There was an Olympian there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we spoke briefly, and we talked. I took a picture with him, and I didn't know he was on the Bruins actually until I spoke with him.
Yeah.
So it's funny how, I don't know much of anything about sports, which is why I'm glad I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
But it's just funny how you just bump into these people sometimes.
I know, it's crazy, small world.
I think my mother, me and my brother, I was very young. I think I was 5, 6, 7 years old. We bumped into Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
From Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bumped into him at the mall. My mom was like, "Oh my God, it's
Dan Aykroyd."
Yeah, and he was on his way out. He was like, "I gotta go." He didn't have time to talk. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. If you're watching this, Dan Aykroyd, I sort of met you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is super interesting to me how they retired the numbers, and it's just a statement to show just how important these people were.
Yeah.
Like it or hate it, these people are paid a lot of money, and they're out there. They're performers in a sense, but they're doing their craft. They're loving their jobs. But some of these people are just real aces for how they went through society. I know back in those times, it was really messed up that you just didn't have these people in sports. These people who are minorities, and it's just awful.
Yeah.
Why should someone be excluded in that way?
Yeah. Which, you bring it up, you just brought it up that it's not necessarily the greatest player that has their number retired. Yeah. No matter what way you swing, in terms of basketball, people either say that either Michael Jordan or LeBron James is the greatest player in all of basketball. For the 99% of the people who want to choose a GOAT in basketball, they say one of those two. But it's the same thing in MLB. If people say, "Oh, who do you think the greatest baseball player of all time in the MLB
I do hear
is?"
Babe Ruth a lot.
Babe Ruth is a big one.
Did his number get retired?
It did not.
What number was he?
He was number 3.
Okay, that's not bad.
So, that's one thing that I wanted to get to. And one thing that I really appreciate about these leagues that they're doing, they're not necessarily retiring the greatest player of the sport, their number throughout the league. They're retiring the number of the player who had the greatest impact, not only in the sport, but in the rest of the world. So, granted, for Wayne Gretzky, he was a Canadian. He was, bar random people who you talk to, he was the greatest in all the sport.
Yeah.
If you're going to talk to someone about the greatest in all of hockey, they're going to say Wayne Gretzky. But in terms of Jackie Robinson, he was a phenomenal player, but he rarely gets brought up in the greatest baseball player discussion.
Yeah.
And same thing about Bill Russell. Even though he has 11 championships and he was a phenomenal player, he's rarely brought up in the greatest of all time discussion.
Yeah.
With those two in particular, it's more their impact that they had not only on the game, but in the world of the game at the time, if that makes sense. They're the ones who took that extra step, the one who pushed the boundaries and succeeded in it, which I think is really phenomenal about those leagues, recognizing not only, oh, did he not hit the most home runs? Oh, that's fine, because he took that step in the color barrier. Or, he was that coach. He coached the Celtics to 7 more championships after he retired as a player. So I really appreciate that, not necessarily promotionalizing the ability in the sport, but more the more important things as the world around them.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast at work today when I was stocking the shelves about how it was an astronomy podcast, and it was about how a lot of women in the field around the turn of the century in the 1900s, even up until the mid-century, a lot of their work didn't get recognized.
Yeah.
And it just makes me feel bad, because I know how it feels to have someone either not recognize your work or make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Or some of these women especially should have gotten Nobel Prizes for the work that they did, but it went to their superior. Now they did say that occasionally it was because of a lot of the if you're a grad student, a lot of the times you don't get brought up to that kind of level.
Yeah.
And a lot of these discoveries were made in that way, but a lot of them weren't. So it's very dicey. I know that this woman, she discovered the spectrograph of stars.
Oh.
And it was, from what I understand, it's basically they interpret the light coming from the star in a certain way to determine what elements it's made up of. She discovered that, but they basically told her, no, stars are made of the same thing that the Earth is made of. And that's been the scientific method for so much time now. And when she wrote her thesis or her report, she wrote it so eloquently so that, like, in the future when it would be recognized, they could look back and be like, oh, like, it was the way the writing was. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that's kind of getting off topic, obviously. Going back to sports a little bit, where do you see kind of like the future going? Do you think that the one sport's going to become more popular than the other? I know football has a pretty strong hold over the U.S. or American football for all my European viewers out there, or world viewers rather.
Yeah.
But just kind of what are your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of popularity and upcoming popularity amongst world sports, I think the record has and will always be soccer or football, whatever you call it. Where you're from.
Yeah.
It is one of the most global sports around, and it's just, I think the appeal of soccer is that all you need to play soccer is a ball and a net on the ground.
Yeah.
That's all you need. All you need is a ball and a place to kick it.
Yeah.
And that's the appeal of people either in Brazil, if you're following Neymar's tracks when he's playing for Brazil in the World Cup, or Portugal for Ronaldo. It's just, people can come from so many walks of life, so far around the world, and play soccer at that level. If we want to localize it a little bit more and talk about the United States, for the longest time, baseball has been called the national pastime of the country.
It's America's game.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Yeah,
it's
but
America's game.
The thing that MLB producers and everybody streaming those on their services or on cable are worried about is the decreasing viewership, because people are like, oh, it's a game that never really has a time limit. Because if you don't know about baseball is played rather than for football. It's 4 15-minute quarters. Yeah. So at the end of those quarters the game is going to be done unless there's a tie, and then it goes into overtime.
You get the 9 innings with baseball, right?
With baseball, it's 9 innings. It doesn't matter how long those innings take, that there will always be 9 innings at least.
Yeah.
So, unless, barring a rain delay or an earthquake in some situations, shout out to the Oakland A's in California. They had an earthquake delay, which is insane. It almost took down their whole stadium. But it's my fear about baseball, because I've always been a lifelong baseball fan. Go Sox, they're great. But people have been steering away from baseball because of how boring they think it is.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to direct it is that baseball could be boring in the same way that soccer could be boring. People say soccer is boring because, the final score is 3-2. There are only 5 points scored in the entire game.
Yeah.
But the people who really appreciate soccer are the people who say, oh, look at the passes in between the players. Look at actually high-level soccer being played and recognize that. Same thing with baseball. There's a reason why in baseball a perfect game is called a perfect game, because people go a perfect game in baseball, nothing happens. The pitcher just demolishes the other team. The other team doesn't get a single hit, walk, anything like that. But the reason why it's a perfect game is because people don't appreciate the skill that it takes to be a baseball pitcher, which is why people are tending to move towards the high-impact sports like hockey and football, something that could happen on every single throw or pass of the puck. They want to see a big hit. They want to see a score. So that's really what I'm concerned about in terms of American sports, is that people don't recognize high-level play occurring and then, just fading it out because they think it's boring.
Something interesting about baseball is that it was largely created before the television.
Oh, yeah.
So you saying that, their viewership's going down because, there's no time limit, all I could think about was how back in the day, people would go to the stadiums, and those are probably the hardcore fans. Those are the people that are out there that are they want to be there, and they're cheering, they want the games. And of course, you still have those people going in today. But in terms of TV viewership, you're not going to get that catch-all effect with these other sports just because of the lack of a time limit.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating how some of these sports just outdate our modern view of the world and how you can view things.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. Baseball was invented in the midst of the Civil War by Union soldiers that wanted to pass the time in between conflicts.
In between battles, getting
Yeah.
slaughtered on the battlefield.
Yeah, because
God.
the Union colonel, I believe he was. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but the inventor of baseball was highly accredited to Abner Doubleday, who was a Union colonel at the time.
I have no clue.
But
You're telling me.
like I said, it was created in wartime to pass times and to ease nerves between battle.
Yeah.
Like someone is throwing this rock at the time with someone with a heavy stick, and it's like, yeah, it's almost 200 years after that point. Televisions didn't exist. The average, like, Joe Schmo at home grabbing a beer, sitting down on the couch watching baseball is like, oh, I gotta wait for 3+ hours for this game to end.
Yeah.
And they're like, why would I want to watch that when I can watch a soccer match that can be done in 90 minutes?
Back in those days, that's how you had fun, and it was probably good that it had 9 innings rather than a time limit.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet you there were a lot of games that went unfinished, unfortunately.
Oh, I guarantee you.
Jimmy comes back without his left arm because back in those days they'd saw your arm off.
Oh, yeah.
If you got like shrapnel. Dude, I always think about how the times really have changed so much, you know. And before I lose it, I know in Springfield we have the Basketball Hall of
Yep.
Fame. Why is that?
It's because the person accredited to inventing basketball is James Naismith.
Uh-huh.
And he was employed by a college in Massachusetts. I forget exactly. I don't want to spew wrong information.
Yeah.
But he was employed by a college in Massachusetts,
Uh-huh.
and he, for an incentive for his students to be active,
Yeah.
he told them to throw this large ball inside a peach basket.
Uh-huh.
And that slowly developed into his students breaking off into teams, one trying to stop them from going into the peach basket, one trying to put it in the peach basket, and then eventually cutting the hole out of the peach basket so the ball was easier to get out. So that development through what turned into a hobby to make sure his students were, like physically fit and making sure they were getting their exercise
And this was all in Springfield.
This is all in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Nice that we have a little bit of history here.
Exactly.
In this state, you know?
It's a wonderful place, the James Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I would highly suggest going to visit. It's full of history all the way from the early 1900s to present day. It's wonderful.
Isn't like the building like a giant basketball?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I always thought that was funny.
It's a dome, and they put the little like strips across the dome to look like a basketball. It's wonderful.
I remember on the way to Six Flags, we'd drive by and I'd see it, and I would always be like, "There's a giant basketball in Springfield." And, all I heard, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, but never anything more than that. Another thought I want to get to before I lose it is, I study in Prague, in Eastern Europe. Central Europe.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like it when you say Eastern Europe, and frankly, geographically, it is Central Europe.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that I say Eastern Europe is more of like a tick from like the Cold War era, because back in those days, in America, I know that a lot of people who are older in this country, that is like there is still that line in people's head where it's like, oh, Czech Republic, that was in the East, that was in like the Eastern Bloc. So, I don't want to get there right now. But basically, when I was there in Prague, it's a very multicultural city, much like how cities in America are, specifically Boston and New York. You have a lot of people from all over the world. What I thought was interesting was that a lot of these people would basically be telling me about like their soccer team.
Football.
Team.
Yeah.
Football. Their football team, as we would call soccer, in their region or which one they supported. One of my buddies, I think it was Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich, yeah.
He had everything. He had blankets. He had sweaters. He had. Actually, I think that they go a little harder than we do. With
my
their
God.
football.
They do.
They have fights.
Yeah, they do.
They coordinate them like they're like armies, and they fight in the stadiums.
One of my bucket list things is to go see football match in Europe, because they take that so hard.
Yeah,
like Bayern Munich is. I mean, I don't want to call your friend out, but Bayern Munich is one of the premier teams in the Bundesliga, which is that Czech Germany league that they have around there.
Oh, kind of like in that region.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of him being a Bayern Munich fan is like being a Yankees fan in baseball. But if he was born and raised there, props to him.
Here's what I'm going to follow that up with. He's actually from Azerbaijan.
Okay.
So he's not even... He's
all
like,
right.
but it's funny how it is global for them, or even I would argue that there is this regional aspect to it, like, like the European Union. Azerbaijan is not in the European Union. It is nearby. It's like it's in the Caucasus Mountains near like Georgia, Armenia, which they're not a fan of. They they fight viciously. It's near like Russia, Iran, Turkey, that area. But I just thought it was interesting how even this person lives in this country and roots for this team, which is sort of nearby. But the U.S. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. We really kind of are in our own world. I say it to everybody. We're in like a test tube country. We have these massive oceans around us. We have Canada to the north, which is very similar. We have Mexico to the south, which we have a pretty strong border with, relatively. And it's just one of those things where it's like we're almost in this bubble.
Yeah.
America's pretty deep in a bubble. Excuse me. In Europe, it's like they have Europe there, and then they have like these countries that are kind of adjacent, but they have all these leagues, and they compete against each other, and it just fosters this sense of community, which I think it's important to note, because in America we have the NFL, we have the NHL, we have the MLB, and that fosters a sense of like state community or like regional community. We have the New England Patriots, the Boston Red Sox, but I would say New England largely roots for them. Except for maybe
New England Master Region. Let's put that out there. Let's get Mega New England out there.
New England's a good spot to live.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I love it. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Wonderful.
I love it here. No, but it's just, we have a good sports history here too.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid there was this mystique and this mystery element to the curse.
Oh yeah, the Curse of the Bambino.
Tell us more about that, because I know a little bit, but I don't think I'm as well informed as you are.
So the curse, what you're referring to, is the Curse of the Bambino, or the Curse of Babe Ruth, and that is a curse that afflicted the Boston Red Sox for about 86 years.
So almost a century.
Almost a century after they.
Long time.
You want to hear the kicker? The reason why this curse existed is because they sold the greatest player in baseball at that time, Babe Ruth, to their rivals, the New York Yankees. And you want to know why the owner sold Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees?
What was it?
To finance a play. To finance a Broadway play that he wanted to. See, and that's a sign of the times. Like, these MLB owners at the time were also the people who were financing directors in their plays on Broadway. So they thought that this play on Broadway would make more than the greatest player in the sport at the time.
Isn't it funny how things work back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe not even funny. I'm thinking about it cringing. I'm like,
yeah.
Why would he do that?
It's like, say in football, for example, because Tom Brady's a household name at this point, whether you're from New England or anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's like people saying, okay, Jacksonville Jaguars, you can have Tom Brady if you pay us so-and-so dollars so I can, make this play or make this movie financed in Hollywood.
Unaffiliated.
Exactly. Like, why would they do that? But to bring it back to the curse is like...
So, a question I have real quick is, what are some dates surrounding this? Like, when did Babe Ruth start playing for the Red Sox?
Yeah. So, Babe Ruth started for the Red Sox in 1908.
Okay, and then when did they sell him?
They sold him in 1917. So 9 years he played for the Red Sox.
Okay, that's a pretty long time, actually.
9 years he played for the Red Sox. And don't think of that long time as like, oh, he gave the Red Sox a good 9 years. He was at the end of his career. His playability was like waning down. That wasn't the case. He was only getting better. Because if people think of Babe Ruth, people think of Babe Ruth on the Yankees, because that's where he spent his best years.
Of course. I can picture him with the stripes and the NY logo. So how long was he on the Yankees for?
He was, I don't remember, but the rest of his career he was on the Yankees, basically.
Well, do you think it was longer than what he was on?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not trying to
definitely.
I'm not trying to get like an
moment,
but I'm just...
No, he was on the Yankees longer than he was on the Red Sox, and he ended his career on the Yankees. So the reason why the curse exists is because the fans believing in it were like, okay, we had the best player in baseball. We had our chance to get this many more trophies.
Then we gave it away.
But we sold it for money.
And it ended in 2004.
2004 when
I don't remember watching the game, but I remember the date.
When the Red Sox not only beat the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series, to get to the World Series, they had to go through the New York Yankees.
Okay.
Which is poetic.
And they did go through them.
They did go through them, but you know what? So the ALCS is what that series is called before the World Series. Mm-hmm. It's a 7-game series. So the team the first to 4 wins the series. The Yankees went up on the Red Sox in that year 3 games to 0.
Really?
So the Yankees won the first 3 games of that series.
So it was like really tenuous kind of.
No team in any other sport in a 7-game series has come back from 3 games to 0.
So they won 4 games.
The Boston Red Sox won 4 games in a row, the last 4 games of the series, to win that series and then go to the World Series to beat the curse.
I didn't know that.
No, it was
very proud.
It was an unprecedented moment. It had never occurred before, and in my opinion, I don't think it'll ever occur again.
Can I tell you something that is super interesting? A little sort of off topic a little bit. When I was in Europe, do you know how a lot of even around the world people wear the Yankees hats?
Yeah. Because, the Yankees are the Yankees.
It's like a symbol of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I get kind of like, the Yankees.
Fuck the Yankees. Yeah.
Where's my Boston Red Sox hat at? But just that symbol,
Yeah, they don't necessarily wear it because they're fans of the Yankees. They're like, this is a staple in the United States of America. In this little other section that you were talking about earlier, I like the themes of Western culture, so let me put on this Yankee cap and represent that.
Yeah, and I love how baseball is pretty common in Japan, the Dominican Republic, a lot of these different places. But I don't know if you had any final thoughts you wanted to add, just something you want to touch on.
I'm just glad that sports as a whole can bring the world together. You know what I mean? Especially in terms of the world.
The football, the international football, not our football.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the World Cup starting in 98 days from today of this recording.
Okay.
It's where the country, in America, we're talking about, the red, the blue, whatever you want to talk about in politics.
Yeah,
but when America makes the World Cup, everyone in the country who cares about Team America is let's go. Yeah, fuck yeah, America. We're going to do this.
Wasn't Italy and England, they were big? That was big recently. When were they?
Oh, okay. So don't even get me started about Italy because I'm so pissed about Italy. So the thing with Italy.
They lost, or?
They lost, but... So Italy recently won last summer. They won the European League.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, the country that wins the European League goes to the World Cup. But what stopped Italy is that they were put in a group with Spain and Portugal. Two of the biggest football powerhouses in the globe.
Well, I know it's Portugal, Spain, Germany, Italy,
Germany's a big one, Italy.
Brazil.
And Belgium's another big one. Yeah.
Belgium.
But only 2 teams make it out of whatever world's group you're put in. So it was Spain and Portugal. Italy came in third, matched up with these insane teams. So even though they won the European League, they're not going to make the World Cup. Mm-hmm. But regardless, wrapping it into what you said, it's the fact that these international games can really bring countries together, and despite the differences that are happening in the country, you have one common goal to root for and really push for that.
And that's just playing sports and having a good time. But hey, man, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it.
I'd love to have you on again someday. And guys, thank you for watching. I know the video got a little dark. It's getting dark out, so I feel like it's our time to call it. But we'll see. I went so good without bouncing.
You did, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you.